The sun beat down on the Crestwood Hills community pool, a relentless July glare that turned the turquoise water into a shimmering mirror of summer dreams. Laughter and splashes filled the air, a chaotic symphony of kids shrieking and pop music thumping from a speaker by the snack bar. Emily Harper sat under the shade of a wide-brimmed hat, her eyes scanning the shallow end where her 8-year-old son, Noah, played. Noah, with his bright grin and endless curiosity, was her world-o-world shadowed by the cruel grip of Dravet syndrome, a condition that turned joy into a tightrope walk over a chasm of unpredictability. His medical alert bracelet, a silver lifeline etched with vital information, glinted on his wrist as he splashed with his older sister, Ava. Emily's heart, always tuned to Noah's rhythm, felt a sudden chill when his laughter a sound as essential to her as breathing stopped. She stood, her beach towel falling to the hot concrete, her senses sharpening like a blade. There in the shallow end, the water churned violently. Noah's small body was locked in the grip of a grand mal seizure, his limbs jerking in a terrifying dance, his head dangerously close to the surface. The bracelet, engraved with Noah's diagnosis, emergency medication instructions, and contact numbers, was his voice when seizures stole his own. It was his shield, his lifeline. Without it, he was just a boy thrashing in water, misunderstood, vulnerable. Linda's words, dripping with indignation, were a grotesque counterpoint to the guttural sounds escaping Noah's throat. This disruptive behavior, is unacceptable. It ruins the peaceful enjoyment of our amenities. As the bracelet snapped free, Noah's convulsing body went limp, no longer fighting the water's pull. With a silent, horrifying finality, he slipped beneath the surface, vanishing into the deceptively calm, turquoise depths. Emily's world imploded. The sun, the chlorine scent, the distant laughter all faded into a roaring void. Her husband, James, shouted her name from across the pool, where he'd been coaching Ava's handstand. But Emily was already in motion, her body a projectile driven by instinct. She hit the water with a clean, silent dive, her entry a testament to years of training as Sergeant Emily Harper of the Port Authority Police Department's elite marine operations and dive unit. Crestwood knew her as a quiet mom, vague about her job. I work in public safety. They didn't know she commanded high-speed vessels, dove into murky depths, or pulled children from water's cold grasp. They didn't know she lived on the razor's edge of life and death. 3 years ago, Emily and James had moved to Crestwood, fleeing the city's sensory assault sirens, neon, crowded ears that tortured Noah's fragile condition. Diagnosed at 18 months, his life was a battle against seizures triggered by a fever or a burst of joy. Crestwood, with its green belts, top-rated school, and sparkling aquatic center, had seemed like a sanctuary. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Noah's neurologist, had cautiously approved. Super VY said swimming can help Noah's joints, his coordination, his happiness, she'd said, her voice gentle but firm. But his bracelet is non-negotiable. It's his voice in a crisis. Emily had delivered a laminated letter detailing Noah's condition to the HOA office, VYing a bland promise it would be filed. She hadn't counted on Linda Grayson, a woman who wielded rules like a scepter, her obsession with control whispered to stem from a shadowy tragedy, child, water, a moment of neglect. No one knew the full story, but it fueled her iron grip on Crestwood's pool. Underwater, Emily's eyes locked on Noah's still form, drifting toward the pool's tiled floor, his red swim trunks a stark slash of color. 2 powerful dolphin kicks propelled her forward, her hand closing around his limp arm. He was a dead weight, his body unresponsive, and a silent scream tore through her. Saw not my boy. Not like this. Saw she cradled his head, keeping his airway clear, and surged to the surface. The world erupted screams, distorted faces pressed against railings, James fighting through the crowd, Ava frozen with Noah's toy fish in her hand. Emily's voice, not a mother's but a commander's, roared, "Call 911. Pediatric seizure, submersion, unresponsive." Dravet syndrome. He needs emergency medication. She hauled Noah onto the concrete, the rough surface scraping her knees. James collapsed beside her, his breath ragged, his eyes mirroring her terror. Emily tilted Noah's head, checked his pulse faint, erratic. No breath. Her hands moved automatically, starting CPR, the heel of her palm pressing his sternum. James, the red baguette, the diazepam gel. Her voice was steel, her training show VYing panic aside. The sun burned. Onlookers gawked, a phone camera glinted. Linda hovered, clutching the bracelet, stammering, "I didn't know. Jewelry can clog filters, cause accidents." James snarled, "Get away from him," as he fumbled with the emergency bag, his hands shaking. Emily counted compressions, delivered rescue breaths, her eyes locked on Noah's still chest. Sirens wailed, agonizingly slow. "Come on, Noah," she whispered a desperate prayer. "Fight, baby. Breathe." Thena's sputter, a cough, a gush of water. His eyelids fluttered, and a weak gasp air, life tore from his lungs. Relief hit Emily like a tidal wave, her knees buckling as she sagged against James, sobbing, trembling. Paramedics swarmed, their calm efficiency a lifeline. Oxygen masks appeared, for lines were prepped, and Noah, breathing but fragile, was strapped to a gurney and rushed to Crestwood General. James climbed into the ambulance, clutching Noah's hand, whispering promises. Emily rose, dripping, her muscles screaming, her fury crystallizing. She turned to Linda, who was justifying herself to a young officer, her voice regaining its imperious edge. "I was upholding safety regulations, officer. That metal band was a hazard. The boy was thrashing violently, a danger to others. I had no idea it was medical." Emily's voice, low and lethal, cut through. "No idea, Linda? The bracelet is engraved epilepsy, emergency info. It's on file with the HOA, with a letter from his neurologist. I delivered it myself. You ripped a life essay VYing to VYC off a seizing child in water. He aspirated water, stopped breathing, was clinically dead for 2 minutes. My son nearly died because of you." Linda recoiled, her composure cracking, her eyes darting to the officer. "It was chaotic. How could I read fine print? If he's that unstable, maybe a public pool isn't safe for him. He's a liability to the HOA." The word saw ignited something in Emily. Noah, her brave boy, was no burden. The terrified mother gave way to the sergeant, a woman who knew the law, who protected the vulnerable, who punished negligence. Linda had no idea who she'd crossed, a woman whose training, resolve, and badge would turn this moment into a reckoning. The pool deck was silent, the crowd watching, phones still recording. Emily's gaze held Linda's, a promise of justice unspoken but absolute. The battle for Noah's life was won, but the war for accountability had just begun. What do you think? Was Linda just enforcing rules, or was her ignorance criminal? Should Emily pursue legal action, or is forgiveness the answer? How would you handle a community leader like Linda? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that spark debate.